G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Matt Weir from First Table. Thanks a lot for your time, Matt.
Yeah, no worries. Good to be on it.
Let's start with how we know each other. I'm scratching my brain earlier today about this. Was it about 3 years ago we met when you were in Hobart? 2.5 years, maybe?
Yeah, that's right. 2017, and lucky enough to be travelling around Hobart for work, and someone put me in touch with you as a good bastard to talk to, right?
And to have a coffee and then later on a beer with. Yeah, it was Greg Ramsey.
Yeah,
who I
discover
worked with.
a few of the breweries.
Yeah, it was Greg Ramsey who I worked with at New Zealand Whiskey Collection. He'd ran into you, I think, 6 months earlier in Queenstown at a whiskey tasting event.
Yeah, that's it.
Great. Well, tell the audience a bit about your business, First Table.
Yeah, sure. So First Table is the only company in the world that specializes in getting people into restaurants at the beginning of the evening. Basically what we do is we've got 1,400 restaurants on a website at the moment, and they all offer their first table of the night half price. And the point is for restaurants to get people in early, and it's also an amazing incentive to attract new diners and get them in early. And I guess all restaurants have the same problem, right? They open up at the start of the night and they've got to wait for those first customers to come in. But having those first customers in the restaurant is really a good social signal to other diners that restaurant's a good place to dine in. So the intention is that restaurants seat that first table in the window view of other passerbys and use that to attract other diners and create an atmosphere in the restaurant at the beginning of the evening.
Yeah, great. And so how do you earn money from that? And you said 1,400 restaurants, and is it 8 countries now you're in?
Yeah, that's right. The business model, it's kind of the other way from what most companies do, right? So most companies would charge the restaurant a fee, whereas on First Table, we don't charge the restaurants anything. We charge the customer a booking fee, and that's where we make our money. Typically, that depends on the market, but in Australia, New Zealand, it's $10 booking fee. Other markets, we tailor it to that currency. So the customer pays $10, and that entitles them to 50% off the food bill for 2, 3, or 4 people at the time and date that they've selected.
That's great. That's an amazing value proposition and a really simple business model, particularly for the restaurant owners. Just keeps things really simple. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's right. It's a definitely an advantage not charging the restaurant. It makes it really easy to get them on.
Yeah.
Restaurants, are working with low margins as it is. So.
And it's only 50% off the food bill, isn't it? Not drinks, not beverages.
Yeah, that's right. So there is an opportunity for restaurants to upsell on drinks and generate that margin on that first table of the night. And also the intention is that first table attracts more tables, and that's where the restaurant really starts making some good margin.
Yeah, right. Great. Well, let's talk a bit about how you started out. I love this story. And also tell us, what age you were at the time and go from there.
Yeah, sure. So it was 2014. I was 29 years old, and I'd had a software development company prior to this. Having sold out of that, I was looking for new opportunities, and it was actually a restaurant in Queenstown that was doing this a long time before that, a little French restaurant on Beach Street, the restaurant was across 2 floors, and most of the dining room was upstairs, and downstairs was just the solo table in the window view. And they would have it as kind of like a local secret where people would ring up the restaurant and ask if anyone had booked the first table, and if they hadn't, then you would get the table, and you'd have to be there at 6 o'clock, and they would offer you 50% off the food bill. And I'd used that personally with my family, taking people in, and just thought, man, it's such an amazing opportunity for us as diners, and it was kind of a win-win. It made sense for the restaurant to have people in there as well. So I thought, why aren't all restaurants doing this? And that kind of sparked the idea. And being a developer myself, I had the benefit of being able to build out the platform, and then getting the restaurants on board.
That's great. And that was 6 years ago.
That's right. Yeah.
Fantastic. And from memory, at the time, you were also running an Airbnb business with your mother as well. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We've got a holiday home property management company in Queenstown, and we managed 60 houses on behalf of holiday home owners.
Wow, that's great. You certainly do like a challenge, Matt, don't you?
I do, yeah.
And you're located in Queenstown, New Zealand?
Yes, that's right.
Yep, great. Well, maybe talk a bit first table. Do you have any key numbers to illustrate the growth of the business?
Yeah. So started 6 years ago, and as a solo founder, built everything out myself, and then just started off in Queenstown basically, and we launched with 10 restaurants. And 6 years on, we've now got 1,400 restaurants on the platform in about 60 cities across 8 countries, and 22 full-time employees. So,
wow.
A massive amount of growth.
Well done. That's phenomenal over 6 years. And what are the 8 countries? Obviously, Australia, New Zealand.
Yeah, Indonesia, England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and Canada.
Great. Wow. Fantastic. So it means a fair bit of air quotes business travel for you and Susanna to go and do some checking out the local markets over there.
Yeah, that's and that's been one of the great things about this business too. I never did an OE in my 20s, but this business has given me the opportunity to really see the world for business purposes. But yeah, it's amazing the seeing it via the business and the opportunities that have come up and the amazing people we've met, and all those beautiful restaurants that we've been to dine at as well.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Well, that sounds like a bloody good job to me. When was the moment you felt like you'd succeeded?
I think the moment that I felt like we'd really succeeded was when restaurants first started coming to us to be on the platform. When I came up with the idea and built out the platform, and then it was all that hard work, at the beginning of going around restaurants, getting them to sign on, and but at the start, you kind of don't really know, like, is this going to take off? Is this going to work? And then when we started getting those restaurants coming to us, and like the big name restaurants too, we're like, wow, this is really happening now.
Yeah, that's great. And what does success look like to you? Is it just that the restaurants are actually finding their way to you?
No, success to us is, it's multiple things, isn't it? I guess now I'm not having to worry about how much money we're making in that. Now it's more of a problem of how quickly can we spend the money to keep growing the company. But success to me is about creating this opportunity for our entire team, and creating those jobs and purpose for all of these people, and growing something that is globally recognized is really amazing.
I just can't believe you said at the start of this that you were the first in the world, really, or effectively, to do this 6 years ago, to launch it. I remember when we first met, I just kept shaking my head. I said, I can't believe no one has not already done this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're really specialized, right? And we're doing the first table of the night, and we're the only company in the world that specializes in that. And yeah, now we've got a brand that's globally recognized, and it's called First Table, and we're the only first table in the world. So yeah.
Yeah. And is there much of a threat from someone, say, like Open Table, doing such an offering in your niche?
I think Open Table are obviously much larger, and they're focused on doing that full price and full service type platform. And I think what we're doing is probably a little bit too small for them to be concerned about it all in the first instance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay. And how did you fund the growth of the business? Has it just been through your own time, I guess, initially building the platform out and then just reinvesting profits back into the business, or have you had to take investment or bank funding or government grants on?
Yeah, so it's all self-funded and basically sweat equity. And when I started out, I just kind of did a few contract jobs and building websites to keep the revenue coming in. But other than that, it's all been just cash flow driven growth.
Yeah, great. And if you were to start up today with plenty of funding, I think I know the answer to this, would you go into this industry?
Well, if I started up today, right, then First Table would already exist, and I wouldn't go into competing with First Table, right? They're already a big company operating in 8 countries, and they've got this network effects and big brand equity across the world. But if I was starting again and First Table didn't exist, then I'd absolutely jump in.
And kind of in the near future, you're looking at adding, I mean, obviously we're pretty much just hopefully halfway through this whole COVID thing at the moment. Obviously your sector has been crucified by it, but New Zealand literally just opened up a couple of days ago where everything is lifted, including social distancing. So that's great to see. And you're getting customers through again over there. But I guess next year or beyond, are you looking at adding more countries to those 8?
Yes, absolutely. So launching in Vancouver just 6 months ago, that was kind of a stepping stone into testing out the Northern American market. So we definitely have intentions to spread out across North America, and then always on the lookout for more markets too. Especially, we've also got a really good foothold in the UK, so moving into Europe as well.
Next big move. That's great.
Yeah.
Can you outline the most stressful points in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Yeah, I guess starting out is the difficult part, right? When you're building everything and you're putting long hours in, and you're still kind of waiting until just that anxiety before you go live. Is this all going to be worth it? Am I doing the right thing? It's that self-doubt at the beginning is the stressful part. And that's a big hurdle to get over.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been there many times, Matt. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. And I don't really know what to do to make that easier. It's just persistence.
Yes.
And I guess having a plan B too, just in case. So in my case, it was always about doing the contract work on the side to keep the money coming in to make sure that, like if this went well, then great. But if it didn't go well, then there's still something there too. So that's a hard part about starting a business.
It sure is, the uncertainty and the self-doubt particularly, and all the risk obviously, but the rewards are there if you have picked a good business model and you persist at it.
That's
and what
right.
area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Well, being a developer myself means that I can kind of see opportunities in what we do that perhaps someone who wasn't a developer CEO would notice. And a lot of that is around automation and what the First Table on the outside looks really simple, but behind the scenes, there's a lot of moving parts, and we've managed to automate so much of that. And it really means that, we call it the machine, right? So it's a big machine in the back end that's kind of got all these cogs that are moving and keeping everything running really smoothly. And what I mean by that is how we engage customers and how we re-engage them, and the little bits and pieces that kind of work together to make the customer experience and the restaurant experience work really well, and always means that it's a win-win for both parties.
Yep. And also, I guess it frees up a lot of time for your teams, and they're not doing low value admin kind of work. They can focus on where the value's at, either the customer service or sales and marketing activities.
Yeah, that's right. And I've been at the beginning, we do that work manually until we kind of realize that, well, this isn't going to scale. We don't want to keep adding on more employees just to handle this manual tasks. So we will build automation and some really smart automation in there as well.
Yep, great. Maybe break down the 22 FTE that you've got, into various functional areas of the business, like developers, sales, marketing, customer service, kind of what numbers in each of those areas roughly?
Sure. So at the top, we've got the CEO and the general manager. In the sales team is by far the largest team. I think we've got 9 or 10.
Wow.
the sales team, and they're distributed all around the world. So they look after, they're in market, and that includes Auckland, Sydney, Vancouver, Bali, London, and more.
Yep.
The marketing team, we have 3 people, customer support 3 people, and the development team 4 developers.
Yeah, right. And so you're CEO, and then you mentioned you've got a general manager just started part-time?
Yeah, that's right. So he's the most recent hire, and adding a lot of value to the company already, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, great. And what have you enjoyed least about managing the fast growth?
So when I think about fast growth, I kind of think about fast growth from a development perspective, and probably the thing that I've enjoyed the least is are the server bottlenecks, because we're running a website company, a technology company, and it's all run on servers, and there can be some late nights when things aren't going well, and you're trying to work out what the problem is, and you're trying to scale things up and make things more efficient. And a really good, interesting example of that is with First Table, we offer the half price tables 7 days, up to 7 days in advance. So that means that at midnight on each day, a new day becomes available on the website.
Yep.
And we have a lot of customers who wait up till midnight just to book that 7th day ahead at the really popular restaurants,
serious?
right? Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
So we get a huge spike in traffic at midnight. And that's something that we had to it's a strange thing, but we kind of had to plan to increase the capacity of our servers at midnight just to handle all of these people that were staying up to book these top restaurants a week in advance.
Wow. That's a funny little quirk, isn't it? You just wouldn't
have
have
expected
expected that.
It's really interesting, but it is really cool too that we've actually managed to generate something that has that demand, where people do care enough to stay up to midnight to get that first table of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great sign. Yeah. And what's been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
For me personally, it's like I've been a developer my whole life, which means that I've spent most of my time sitting behind a computer and not having to talk to people, right? So
Yep.
Starting out as a one-man band on First Table was the challenge for me was getting into sales and actually having to talk to people. And so I guess perhaps not so much of a mindset shift, but more of a personal challenge in doing this was the sales component.
Yep.
But the good news was that is that it's completely possible to learn how to do sales and how to do all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's hard at the start, but it's worked out fine.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Sales is hard when you're first doing it if you're not naturally sales orientated. Yeah, but so crucial for obviously to grow the business and succeed.
Yeah.
And what's the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
I think the number one habit is time management.
And
it's actually something that I'm not amazing at, but the high performing people that I know, such as yourself, I know that that's one thing that I recognize is time management and optimizing your output to time. But also think another thing that's really important for founders or owners of small businesses is kind of working out what your personal capacity is for doing work, right? And working to that capacity and managing that capacity, not overstepping your capacity. That's going to lead to problems, but kind of optimizing yourself so that you can reach that capacity, because the more you can do, then there's always work to do, right?
That's right. And I was just thinking about this the other day. It's a double-edged sword. I think I may have mentioned this on an earlier cast, but we're blessed. Most of us that started our own businesses, and some call us entrepreneurs, that we love what we do, and that's great because time flies, and you get a lot of stuff done, and there's hardly a day there that you haven't really rocked it. But the other side of that sword is that you can work too much. I've certainly had many phases in my work life in the last 20 years, small business career, and I still have to manage it to this day because it's just so easy to go, oh, I'll just keep going. I just absolutely love doing it. So I've put structures in place, like take my dog
Great.
for a bushwalk nearly every day. And that's one of the reasons why I got him, was to force me to get out of the house and exercise. Or set meetings up with, or dinner dates. Like I had a big dinner party here the other night with friends, with my daughter, just to make sure that I'm, and obviously spending a lot of time with my daughter as well when she's whipping my ass at chess at 4:30 in the morning. So yeah, that's really important to find that balance. Yeah, she's wild.
Yeah, and there's a level of self-awareness required, isn't there? Because you need to be aware of your mindset and how hard you're working and what the result of that is. So.
And also, I think with relationships, friendships, but also particularly romantic relationships, I think you're fortunate. Susanna's also a business owner. She's got her own winery tour business there around Queenstown. Well, I've certainly had relationships in the past where my partners just don't understand, one, what it's like loving every minute of what you do, but also the stress and the challenge. So I think you're fortunate, both you and Susanna, to have found each other and work very well together.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks.
Be the change you want to see in your business. Become more productive and less stressed with our free Transform Your Performance online course. Once you see the benefits, put your entire team through the course at no cost. We start out by telling you the secret to guaranteed success, then over 100 lessons help you be more focused, present, productive, and feel more in control about work. growasmallbusiness.com. Let's talk about how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes you've had, and advice for those listening.
Yeah, sure. So my first hire in the team is Jessica Smith, and she's been a rock in the company. So that role. She kind of does everything, but bringing her on board at the start was to help out with a lot of the administrative tasks, customer support, restaurant support, accounts, payroll, all that kind of thing. I've never done payroll myself. But bringing her on board, she knew how to do payroll, so she could actually pay herself, and that's been great. And so she's done payroll since day one.
Yep.
And then from there, some mistakes I made were trying to get people to help out, bringing on restaurants in cities around the world on commission only. And as an example, I went to Melbourne, and I set up a couple of people who actually approached me, like they wanted to get involved with First Table. I'm like, right, great, I'll come to Melbourne and I'll go around the restaurants with you and help you out, give you all the material that you require. And that worked really well while I was there. But then as soon as I left, it's a hard job, right, doing sales, and they kind of just fell off and found brighter, shinier objects or opportunities. So it wasn't until I actually committed to bringing on some full-time business development people that we really started seeing success in that area. Yep.
Great. Yeah. So getting the remuneration and resourcing structure right in that corner of the business has really made a big difference.
Yeah, that's right. It's just kind of finally committing to some people and getting that commitment from people in return that really helped, and been really fortunate that we've hired some really, really good people.
Yeah. Just going back to Jess, you're fortunate, I think, to start off with obviously finding that A player, but how much of a chasm there is between an A and a B player. I don't know if you've had any B or even C players on the team to date, but from my experience, it just makes the world of difference if you've got, particularly early on, a couple of A players there that really set the tone and benchmark, or sets the bar. And you can just get on with focusing on the areas of the business, one, that add the greatest value, and two, that you enjoy the most. And then.
Yeah, and I think the skills that you look for in a startup at the beginning are the all-rounders, right? The people that you can throw anything their way and they can help out with it, because at the beginning of a company, you need people that can fill multiple roles, because you can't afford to just employ a specialty person for each role.
And also it's attitude, that they're willing to get in there and give it a go and give anything a go to get this thing across the line. Attitude.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And what are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
That's always kind of a work in progress for us, and I think we do have a really good culture where, I guess, as a kind of a way to explain what we've done, we've engaged a person in New Zealand who used to work for Apple, and he's come and done some workshops with us, and he's added a lot of value and really helped us out.
Yep, great.
Stuart Braxton, and would definitely recommend working with him.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then also internally, we've implemented some software that kind of keeps a monitor on everybody. It automatically emails the team with questions each week, and then that kind of enables us to track the climate of the company over time and put into helps us bring attention to anything that kind of needs our attention.
So that's more monitoring their happiness levels, I guess. And
yeah, that's right. Engagement levels and
great. And yeah, and you've got quite a disparate team. Obviously, you've got BDMs or business development people splayed all around, the globe. So how do you go? And you've got a team offshore in the Philippines as well.
Yeah, that's right. So there are challenges with having people all over the world, and a lot of the team haven't met each other, and the different time zones to cater to.
Yeah.
The way that we handle it, we have a weekly Zoom meeting where everyone gets jumps on board and just updates everyone quickly on what they've been working on, what the challenges are, and a quick discussion. And then outside of that, we've got one-on-ones that are scheduled ahead of time. We normally have one or two to do each week, and that's just a case of, like, you've been partnered with this person this week, give them a call, spend 15 minutes getting to know them, because outside of those weekly Zoom meetings, there's not that one-on-one interaction, and people they just don't get to know each other. But
you don't have those water cooler moments where you can pick up some intel of, Jess used to have this background, so I'll go and ask her this question because and that only is often uncovered around the water cooler, or you're having a coffee or a beer at some point.
Yeah.
And just on the offshore team, so of your FTE, roughly how many is that they included in that FTE of 22?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. I mean, it's a funny way to put it, an offshore team, because actually most of the team technically is offshore, right?
Yes, true.
Yep. But yes, we do have an office in Manila that looks after customer support, and part of the team is development as well.
Yep.
And we are looking at launching in Manila as well. So that kind of takes advantage of having that local presence there, and then building out a sales and marketing team there as well.
Yeah, great. And you've got 8 in Queenstown, so a bit over a third of all your team is in the one spot.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is
right.
Nice having a bunch of us together in one office, and try to get around the rest of the world to see everyone when travel permits as well.
Resumes,
Yeah.
What about professional development? Have you invested much in yourself? Books, podcasts, courses, training, or conferences?
No, not really. I do have ambitions to read books.
Yep.
I just never get the time, but I guess,
Because you did programming or computer science at university?
Yeah, I did business studies at university. There was one computer science paper in there.
Yep.
But I've been building websites since high school. So
right. Yep.
And I mean, building websites and software development as a whole you're always learning every day. So
yes. Yeah. I think my parents got me a Commodore 64 when I was aged 11 or 12 or something. And I remember absolutely loving it, just learning how to code in the basic language, which I'm sure you'd be aware of, and is so it's so simple as a language, I'm assuming. I really enjoyed my time in computing. What about, have you had any mentors or coaches along the way?
Yes. A lot of mentors, and just like really good quality people like yourself that I can keep in touch with and run things past that's I wouldn't have got to where I've got to without all of those people for good advice. And there's so many things to learn, right? Like as a founder of a company, you've got to do everything. So, and no one knows how to do everything from day one. So you've got to lean on people who have done it before, or and so many things like how to structure the company and who to employ next and where to spend the money and which markets to grow into. And yeah, there's a lot of people that can help out with that.
Yeah, I think it's great. The informal mentoring or just networking out with other business owners, I really revel that time and get a lot of value out of just things fall out of conversations. Like for when we caught up last time you were in Hobart, last year it was, I'd just gotten back from Bali, and I mentioned how I'd been thinking about moving into launching some online courses. And that's when you told me of your friends in Queenstown that have an online training course business doing very well. And I was able to meet up with them in December when I was over there. And they've been, invaluable, helping me with my co-founders of the Distillers Institute, which launching those online courses about 6 weeks ago. They were, it's great to be able to go to people that have been doing it for 4 or 5 years and knocking the lights out, and preventing us from making those mistakes.
Those guys are awesome. They've grown so big and so fast. And
HP Academy.
I was glad I could put you in touch with them.
Yeah, that was great. I think, they were. I think you might have described them as they teach bogans how to tune cars, but very impressive setup there. When I went and visited the place, the video, the editing, with only FTE of 6, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, they've got their big workshop and a whole lot of cars, and then a recording studio right in there. So,
and they were in the Deloitte Fast 50 as well, weren't they, with you last year?
Yep.
They did say to me that you're going to kick their ass pretty soon because your business is much more scalable than theirs.
Yeah, but I still think they're quite a bit ahead of us though. So we've got some ground to make up.
Yeah, good. And do you have a board of directors or advisors?
No, we don't. But it's certainly something that we do intend to put in place, especially as we kind of, I think businesses go through different stages, right? And we've been able to be quite lean and without that and move quite quickly. But then as we grow bigger, we've got more stakeholders with teams and responsibilities. And so we have had advice around that. And the advice is to start with a really good chair.
Yes.
To find the right person who's done what we've done before. We want to grow. Like at the moment, we've got 1,400 restaurants on board. We want to get to 10 to 20,000 restaurants on board. So some big growth ambitions, and it's about finding a chair who has done that before, and getting that chair to build out the directors around that person.
Yep. Yeah, I think we chatted about that when I caught up with you and Susanna in Queenstown in December. That was only 6 months ago. It feels like a lifetime at the moment. But yeah, I think that's so important. One, having a really good, effective chair. And I think, as we discussed, you really should start with that role first because that shapes the rest of the board.
Yeah. And they've got the experience to bring on the right people around them. So start with that really right person rather than building a kind of mishmash.
Yes. Yeah.
Board of directors.
All right, we're on to the final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
I think the hardest thing is something that I call decision-making fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when there's no blueprint when you're starting out something that hasn't been done before. So you're making decisions on the fly as you go all day, every day. And by the end of the day, that can get quite tiring.
Exhausting,
I think that's one of the hardest things.
One of the sayings I developed when I was at Lark Distillery here in Hobart, I was CEO, and I'd have 5 or 6 line managers, direct reports, who'd come to me sometimes early on because they didn't know, how I operated or what I expected of them decision-making wise. But I pretty much cut that off at the pass early on when I would start saying, if someone came to me with a decision and it was a small thing that had to be decided, I'd say, I make enough decisions on a day to run a small South Pacific nation. You can make that decision. I'm happy to give you my opinion, but you're making the fucking decision.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And what about favorite business book? Just help you the most. Have you read any?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I haven't read a lot of business books, but there is one that I do keep going back to, and that's Blitz Scaling: The Lightning Fast Path to Building Massively Valuable Companies by Reid Hoffman and Chris Yee.
Oh, LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman.
And there's some really good. Yeah, it's a really good book for. I've learned a lot about how to structure a company that's growing really fast, and and businesses go through different phases, and what structure and setup is right for that phase, and then how you move from that phase into the next one. Because hey, I haven't done this before, and a lot of business owners are doing it for the first time. So there's a lot to learn from books like that.
Yeah, I think Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn and the two Google founders as well. Anyone else that's taking tech companies that scale, I think they're great ones to study up on and follow.
Yeah.
What about any great podcasts or online learning tools for your own professional development?
I subscribe to Medium,
right?
Medium.com.
Mm-hmm.
The app is really great. It's got a really good algorithm that recommends stuff that I'm really interested in all the time. So that's a regular one. And then the TLDR, too long didn't read, email Daily Digest is really great as well.
Yep, great. And one tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Yeah, I think Facebook ads is an amazing tool, and we love it. There's so much; it's so powerful, and you spend what you want. It's all measurable and
so granular as well.
Yeah, that's right, and it's all about growing a business. So a good example of that is creating our customer acquisition ads, and that's where we want new diners to sign up on the website. So we can exclude audiences, and we can exclude people who are already registered on the website. So that means that, when we're spending money, we're only spending money to show the ads to people who haven't registered on the website already.
Wow.
And that's really powerful. And that wasn't possible before Facebook ads. If you're doing radio, print, TV, whatever, you're still, you're still paying to show the ad to people that you don't want to show the ad to, that you're getting no value from, and you can't separate them. So that's amazing. It's great.
It is. Okay, and final question, what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
If I was going back to talk to myself on day one, I'd say, mate, you're in for a shitload of work, but just some reassurance that it's all going to be worthwhile.
Yep. Yeah, great. Very healthy advice, yeah. Many of us have been through that valley of doubt at various stages of growth,
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time today, Matt. I think the audience got a shit ton of value with what you've shared with us today, and look forward to checking in, having you back in a year or so when when you hit the 10,000 restaurant mark. So,
yeah, great. Thanks, Troy, and great to be on board.
Great, no worries. I'll see you in New Zealand probably later this year for a beer.
Yep, will do.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.